Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to be working on a small woodworking chisel that has a socket to fit the handle. I'm forging this chisel as a sample because I'm going to be attaching the socket to the chisel in a slightly different way than I normally do, so I thought I would forge this out just to see how it turns out. The socket needs to be forged over a mandrel, so I'm going to get the material for that out of one of these 60-inch pry bars that you can find at just about any hardware store. I managed to find one that had a pretty regular octagonal section, and the taper was pretty close to what I wanted, so that's what I'm using here. Most of this section is exactly what I want, however I do want it to taper to a finer point, so I need to reshape that. I'm going to be making the socket out of a small piece of 1/8 inch plate. The actual dimensions of the socket at this point is really just flat out guesswork. I know that it's bigger than I need, and I know that I'm going to be forging the socket down to the mandrel, and that's going to give me the extra material that I need to forge it to the shank of the chisel. But beyond that, I really don't know. I have made a pattern of this piece, so when all is said and done, I'll be able to decide whether any of the dimensions need to be larger or smaller, and from that I'm going to be able to develop a formula that I'm going to be able to use to get the sockets exactly where I want them. Here I'm setting up the weld by overlapping the edges of the socket. I did continue this lap further down because I thought that I was going to be able to continue this process from the bottom up once I welded the end of the socket to the chisel blank, but the whole length of it actually did weld, so I wasn't able to move it after all, so you'll see that scar later on. It's a solid socket, just looks ugly. Here I'm going to be using a round tapered punch to be able to shape the end of the socket to fit over the bar that I'm going to be using. I'm also going to be upsetting the end of the bar slightly to give me a little more material for the weld. This project started out purely as an experiment, but it does look like I'm going to get a usable chisel out of it, so I'm going to take the time to weld a carbon steel bit to the end of the chisel. So here I'm a little further along. I have the chisel heat treated and I've done a little bit of grinding on it just to clean it all up. I'm probably going to be using this chisel just as a paring chisel, which means I'll probably just be pushing it by hand, not using a mallet. But to test it, I'm going to be driving it directly into a block of wood like you would a mortising chisel. So that really puts a lot of pressure on the edge, and if anything's going to break loose, it'll do it during this testing. So here's the completed chisel. It's all in one piece, and it's always nice when you try something as an experiment and it turns out into something that you can use. So we'll see you next time. Hi, I'm Dennis, and thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can contact me by using the email address that I have shown here. If you like the channel and the work that I'm doing, please consider becoming a patron. Every dollar you contribute will bring me one step closer to being able to produce videos full-time.